Welcome back. This year's federal budget includes billions in new spending measures, investment in green energy, investments in healthcare, but it's doing so at a time of economic uncertainty. Now, the budget does allow for a shallow recession this year, which is going to mean some of the revenues are going to be lower than initially expected as well. TD Economics crunched the numbers. They found $67 billion in net new spending over 5 years. I spoke with TD Deputy Chief Economist Derek Burlton, and he says those budget assumptions are going to be tested if we don't get a shallow recession, but rather a harder landing.
When I look at their 2023 numbers, they're actually quite cautious. Beyond that, they look reasonable. So the starting point does provide a bit of cushion. But in the event of a recession, and that's my worry. The bigger deficits, you can argue there weren't a lot of tax increases in the budget above and beyond what we knew, which is a good thing. But that could just be delayed tax increases because the bigger deficits, again, tied to the spend, tied in part to the economic slowdown built in, just leaves less wiggle room in the event we run into a hard landing.
Now, clean energy initiatives were a big part of the federal budget, well telegraphed before the budget. $21 billion in net new spending over 5 years in that area. That includes $4.5 billion in tax incentives aimed at mining critical minerals. Now, I asked Derek Burlton about that as well, and he says the incentives are just part of the story.
The government has used a combination of carrots and sticks. This budget leans more on the carrots, and that was exactly what was in the Inflation Reduction Act introduced south of the border. It's a big amount of money. I think when you start layering the spend over the past few, last year's budget, the fiscal update, you are above that kind of $50 billion that you needed to respond on a per capita basis. I think for Canada, the big challenge comes more not with the incentives, but with the process. I think in particular, you talk about critical minerals being a huge opportunity for Canada to get in under the U.S. tent, to engage in supply chains. We've got, natural potential here in Canada.
Of course, U.S. President Joe Biden was recently in Canada and said that exact same thing in terms of meeting the needs of the green economy with some of the minerals we have right here in this country. Our budget coverage continues when we come back, including lots of changes for family-owned businesses. Nicole Ewing of TD Wealth is next.